I have a lot of clients coming to me saying, both of my parents are narcissists. And while, yes, this can happen, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to tell. Are both of my parents narcissists? And really what happens within that relationship and how it impacts you and what you can do about it. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. I'm a transpersonal psychologist, holistic nutritional chef, and best-selling author of Get Well Now, Healing Yourself with Food and the Power of the Mind. And I help wounded ACONs, adult children of narcissists, to become healed icons. And what's an icon? An icon is somebody who is independent, confident, original, and naturally you. All those things that you get divided from when you have a narcissistic parent. And so in this video, I said I was going to talk about, are both of my parents narcissists? Well, like I said, a lot of people do come to me and say both of my parents are narcissists, and absolutely possible that they could have different types of narcissism, different types of narcissistic traits, and they may be very explosive with each other, very difficult to be around, the two of them together. But that's going to happen in a relationship when the narcissist is with a person who isn't a narcissist as well. So this is not to diagnose somebody and try to figure out if they're a narcissist or not. It's really to try to understand more deeply what happened between your parents, why you might have interpreted your parents as being both narcissistic, and how that has impacted you. Because I think more important than anything is that you work with and heal the wounds of parental narcissistic abuse, the ways that it impacted you, the ways that it's hurting you now, still today, after maybe many decades of having been raised by a narcissistic parent and being out of their house. So let's get right to it. So, narcissistic parents, now these, I'm talking about somebody who actually has the disorder where they have that sense of entitlement. They have a grandiose sense of self. They gaslight. So it's not just lying. They lie a lot typically. But they also make you doubt your own reality, make you feel like you're the problem and you're the crazy one. And they do all kinds of things and set you up for this. They tend to have an excessive need for admiration. Now, not all of them do. And this is where it gets a little dicey and hard to tell. Some of the ones that are more covert, that are, poor me, oh, everything's so awful in my life. And if you only did this for me and that for me, after all I've done for you, all those kinds of things that they may say on a regular basis to try to make you feel guilty, make you feel ashamed, and make you feel like you're this terrible daughter or son. And they're using that as a tactic to try to pull you in to get you to do stuff for them. But I think the key thing with a narcissist is it's all about me. And it's kind of hard to have two parents where it's all about me for any great length of time. What often happens in those parental relationships, if they're both highly narcissistic or one has the disorder and the other's highly narcissistic, is they don't tend to last. And there's some things that you can kind of tell inside of the relationship as to whether or not they really are a narcissist. One of the things that's really hard to tell, and what I see a lot in my practice, is that the non-narcissistic parent is very often enabling the narcissistic parent. So what they do is they carry out the directives of the narcissistic parent. So you might be confused and think, well, that parent's the narcissist, when the truth is, it's the one who is sending the orders down the chain of command and making you think that the non-narcissistic parent is actually the narcissistic one. And they do this pretty intentionally. It's called triangulation, where they've got you in this triangle of chain of command, basically. The narcissistic parent who's at the helm, who's the one who's truly in charge, the one who's really directing. It's like, I call them the puppet master, where they're just trying to move people into place because their primary objective is always going to be to control everyone around them. So that narcissistic parent may have the non-narcissistic one, or maybe that person has narcissistic traits, but just a lower amount of them, doesn't have the disorder. that parent looks like the bad guy, but they want him to look like the bad guy. So that makes them be the fall guy or the fall gal, if it's your mother. So think about that for a moment and really think about like, you don't really know. A lot of times you don't really know what goes on behind closed doors, but when you're in the narcissistic romantic relationship and you have a family, the dynamics are even more intense because of the pressure that the narcissistic parent puts on the other parent to show up for them, to do what they want you to do versus what you want to do. And so that person will feel in great conflict. They'll feel confused. They'll feel sad and upset and angry. And often the non narcissistic parent who's being enabling the narcissistic parent is depressed. They're anxious. They may have a mental health diagnosis themselves, or you're pretty sure, they may seem bipolar to you. They may seem borderline to you, where they blow up explosively, but that could be reactive abuse because they're reacting to the abuse that they're going through. So as you start thinking about your own family system and start thinking about, well, okay, I really do think that maybe my father was the narcissist and my mother was not the narcissist, and that she was carrying out the directives for him because she was the one who was in more contact with you and the other siblings in the family. And so she may be the one who is enforcing the rules of the narcissistic parent. And she's been put in a position where she has to enforce those rules because the punishment that she receives behind closed doors, she may be receiving long-term punishments of the silent treatment if she doesn't carry out the directives of the narcissistic parent. And so that parent might feel really conflicted all the time because that might not be their natural default at all. They might be actually empathetic and caring and really love you kids, but they feel caught. And so they feel trapped. And you can kind of tell because if that parent, the narcissistic parent, is trapping the other parent, they won't really allow them to do things with you. They won't allow them to do things on their own. So if you just start looking more closely at the dynamics between the two parents, you might start to notice like, hey, I don't think that both of them were narcissistic or narcissists, and that maybe the other one was just enabling the narcissist to do what they do because they were terrified of them. That could be coming into play. This can be really subtle and be really difficult to try to understand because the narcissistic parent's going to require the other parent to stand in alignment with them, even when they're doing awful things, even when they're being abusive. And it's a really horrible place for anybody to be caught in. You as the child of the narcissistic parent and you as the child who's witnessing the relationship between the two parents. So it does happen, though, where narcissists do get together. And I think if you really want to see kind of how this happens and how this can, quote unquote, work, it doesn't work. It's going to be a transactional relationship, and you're going to see that between the two parents. It won't be just from one side. It'll be both of them transacting. If you do this for me, I'll do that for you, that kind of thing. Both going to be neglectful emotionally, both going to be have an entitled, grandiose sense of self. Maybe one parent's more into their looks, while the other parent is more into how it all looks. The success, the monetary success. They'll both be engaged in the stuff and the money and all of that. But what you'll see too is both parents would also need to be unable to self-reflect. They wouldn't be able to look at themselves and go, oh, you know what? I'm really being harsh with you, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. They won't be able to adjust, and they also won't ever take responsibility. So if you have two parents that are never taking responsibility for their own actions, and they are both projecting basically everything onto you and your siblings in terms of their shame, their guilt, their anger, their jealousy, their envy, all of those emotions that they really load you up on, basically. Those are the emotions that they use to control you with. then that might be part of what you're dealing with. I think by and large, what I see more and more in my practice is one narcissistic parent with the disorder, and then the other parent maybe having high narcissistic traits, but that parent is really just carrying out the directives of the narcissistic parent. So it's something to think about and to try to understand about your parents. You also may be avoiding having a relationship or building any kind of relationship as an adult with the non-narcissistic parent because you think they're both narcissists. But you actually may be able to build a relationship with that one who's enabling the narcissistic parent to carry out those directives because, they're afraid too. But they're so good at hiding their fear that you just don't know it. And so really look at that. You may actually be able to recover a relationship with one of your parents when you thought they were both narcissists when actually one of them really wasn't. So it just depends. There's so many different subtleties of this, but like I said, the hallmarks of it are really important to look at, that inability to self-reflect. Everyone else is always the problem. It's always your fault. They never take responsibility, grandiose sense of self, sense of entitlement. They're entitled to your time, your resources, your energy, your money, whatever it is that they feel because they see you as an extension of them because they don't see themselves as separate from exterior objects. And so their whole world becomes about the exterior, about objects. Everything's an object, including you. And so you'll feel used by them. So if this is resonating with you and this is interesting to you and you feel like you want to learn more, you can go to my website at meghaworth.com and get 52 ways to tell if your parent is a narcissist. And it's a free checklist where you can kind of look at those 52 ways to see if, maybe those are some of the things that you're seeing in your own life. There's also so many videos on this channel. So please like this video and subscribe, make a comment. That really helps send this up in the algorithm so that more people get to see it. So I get this message out there because these YouTube videos are free to you, but of course there are costs to me to make them. So I want to keep making them. So please go ahead and like and subscribe and share these videos with anyone that you think might benefit from them. So what I would say to you is really learn more about the traits of the narcissistic parent, the different types of narcissists that you can be dealing with, because one parent might be a covert narcissist. Oh, poor me, victim, victim, victim. And the other one might be more of a grandiose narcissist, where they're larger than life and all of that. So that actually is possible. And I started to say earlier that one of the ways that you can see this on screen, where they did an excellent job of seeing two narcissists together in a television series, is Succession. Succession has like a wasp nest of narcissists. It's a narcissist nest. I mean, there's so many narcissists in the show. It's unbelievable. But the one couple that I really want you to really look at closely is the coupling between Shiv and her husband. Shiv is one of the daughters of the malignant. I mean, he's a sadistic, malignant narcissist. Logan Roy, he's the head of this family. He's a big media mogul who owns like tons of newspapers and magazines and all kinds of media outlets. And so you see this whole family that are struggling with narcissism. So seeing that relationship between Shiv and her husband, Tom, really helps you to kind of see two narcissists and what it's like when they're together and how they manipulate each other, how they are transactional with each other, how they really hurt each other, and they lie and they cheat and gaslight. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, if you can stomach it, I did it for research to try to understand more deeply these narcissistic family systems, and they really captured it incredibly well in that particular series. Another series that's actually a lot more lighthearted, I also really love this series, is Gilmore Girls. Gilmore Girls has a really great depiction of the narcissistic mother and the narcissistic daughter and then the grandchild, and how narcissism comes down through the female line in those systems. So you can see narcissism throughout in all three of those characters, but you see the matriarch, who I think really is being depicted as somebody who has the disorder. and how she reacts and interacts with the kids. And I think we see Lorelai and her daughter Rory, you see more empathy coming out in the generations to come. By the time we get to Rory, we have this really empathetic and caring and good-hearted person. But a lot of it, I think, had to do with the fact that she didn't raise her daughter around her mother, the grandmother, who's the matriarch, who's highly narcissistic. And so that's another great show to look at. Of course, these are not like, full on case studies, but you'll see the narcissism and the traits running through those couplings in the shows, like with Emily Gilmore and her husband Richard in Gilmore Girls, which I think will be really helpful for you. I find it both entertaining and interesting to look at these different types of relationships. Having two narcissistic parents is possible, not incredibly likely, especially long term. So really look at the enabler and how your non-narcissistic parent might have had to support the narcissistic parent just to survive, just to get by and get through, and may have picked up a lot of traits along the way, especially if they married really young and had a very long-term marriage. Because if you think about the narcissistic parent, the one who actually has the disorder is breaking down and wearing away at the other parent bit by bit by bit over the years, convincing them that things that are actually morally corrupt and wrong are okay. That's one of the things that narcissists do quite a bit. They're unbelievable in how they get in there and get people to believe things are okay when they're absolutely illegal and heinous and immoral. They just do it. It's really crazy how they do that. So anyway, I hope this information has been really helpful for you. I do work with people one-on-one in my Iconic Me therapeutic coaching program. If you want to work with me, you think you might want to work with me, I've got lots of online courses with the Shift Network. I teach on faculty with them. I also have my own online course, more than one. So there's so many resources for you here. But if you'd like to book a free call with me to see if we might be a good fit to work together, or see if there might be something I can refer you to if we're not a good fit, because I am connected with a lot of experts in the narcissistic abuse recovery space. And I may not be right for you, and that's fine. I look at the holistic connections, mental, emotional, physical, and energetic and spiritual, and how all those things are interconnected using my whole person integration technique to help you release the emotional energy and how you're holding that in your body and the core limiting belief that's associated with that. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me. And I hope this information will help you get well now.